Good afternoon. Welcome to Sports and Other But Sports with Kent Sterling for Monday, January 6th, 2020. Beautiful day in central Indiana. Get out there, play some golf. Maybe it's a little chilly to do that, but you know what? Not really. If you love golf, get out there and do it. We're brought to you, as always, by the great people at Today's Dentistry. Dr. Mike O'Neill, the best dentist that there's ever been. It's why he's been my dentist the last 26 years. Call him, make an appointment, 317-849-2933. Let's talk about sports right after I mention Oops. Get the book. Come on. Oops. The art of learning from mistakes and adventures. I wrote it. You can get it at Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com. You can get the ebook, you can get the audio book, you can get the hardcover book, whatever you want. All right. Anyway, just, search Oops and Kent or Kent Sterling, whatever you got to do. It's cheap. It's fun. It's a great book for while you poop. Oops while you poops. That's what we're telling people to do. All right. Let's talk about Tom Brady. This is such clickbait, and it's so ridiculous. Tom Brady to the Colts? Could it be? You know what? Number one, no, it couldn't be. And it's nothing but clickbait. Number two, and maybe I'm indulging in it, right? Because I'm talking about it right now. But what I'm doing is trying to refute the other people who are talking about it, which may be even more nefarious than talking about it in the first place. Anyway, you get my the gist of the whole thing. Tom Brady is not coming to the Colts, nor should you want him to come to the Colts. Let me give you a few reasons why. He is going to turn 43 years old on August 3rd of this year. 43 years old. I'll run down the list of starting quarterbacks who at the age of 43 had any level of success, lasted an entire season, or went to the playoffs. Here they are. You get the idea. There aren't any. None of them do. Do you know why? Because old bodies don't heal like young bodies. They don't come back Sunday after Sunday after Sunday after Sunday after getting the hell kicked out of you to play as well the following Sunday as they did the previous Sunday. There is a decline throughout the season. Tom Brady this year was really, really good over the first 6 games. He averaged more than 8 yards per passing attempt 4 times in the first 6 games. Same weapons that he had throughout the season, right? Basically, he did have Josh Gordon for a little bit, and then he got cut by the Patriots. That's a whole different story. But anyway, you had 4 of his first 6 averaging more than 8 yards per attempt. In his last 11, he averaged more than 8 yards per attempt just 1 time, and he averaged less than 6 yards per attempt 6 times. That's how it works with old guys. Yes, there are going to be days when he's as good as he ever was, but the following Sunday, it isn't going to happen. That's what happens when you get older. If you know anybody who's gotten older, ask them about it. As you get into your 40s, man, every once in a while, whatever you compete at, whether it's golf, tennis, softball, whatever, you feel great once in a while. You think, hey, I'm back. I'm back. Are you kidding me? I'm as good as I ever was. And you are every once in a while. But it is impossible either to recover and then perform again, or it just at some point becomes impossible, period, where you can never get to where you were. And that's the way it goes. Jack Nicklaus at the age of 58 at the Masters, I believe it was 1998, he came in tied for 6th. That was the most incredible thing I've ever seen. Not winning it in 86 at the age of 46. No, it was coming in tied for 6th at the age of 58 at Augusta National. That is phenomenal. That's the way you age. All right. That is a freak show of an athlete. Jack Nicklaus, one of the best athletes, pure athletes to play golf ever, ever, ever. And so he was able to do that. That Tom Brady was able to win a Super Bowl at the age of 41 is one of the most stupendous things in the history of sports. No, other guys, they didn't play beyond 40. Brett Favre, he was 40 when he retired. Unitas, 40. All these guys, 40. I think Manning was 39. Nobody plays into their 40s, not in the National Football League, unless you're a kicker. You got a guy like George Blanda, who played a little bit of quarterback. Didn't start any games at quarterback. Played a little bit in a relief role into his 40s and had some success. But Tom Brady's not a kicker like George Blanda was. George Blanda, one of the best athletes in the history of the league. Anyway, Tom Brady is not a guy who's going to come to the Colts because the Colts don't have the weapons necessary for him to be successful here. He didn't go into a place to try to build with a team. He didn't go into a place thinking, hey, you know what? If they do the right thing in the draft, maybe in 2024, we got a shot at another Super Bowl. That's not Tom Brady. That's not what he's doing. What Tom Brady is trying to do is win right now. If he saddles up for 2020, he is saddling up with a team that he feels he can put over the top. That's what he's doing, and that is not the Indianapolis Colts. Not only that, Chris Ballard is way too smart to see Tom Brady as a guy who's a quick fix at quarterback. It makes no sense whatsoever, either from Brady's perspective or from Ballard's perspective and the Colts' perspective. It is ridiculous as an off-season piece of dialogue and conversation that we can have. It's much better suited for a sports bar where knuckleheads bandy about all kinds of crazy topics instead of responsible journalism where you would expect better, unless that better is just shutting it down entirely and saying, what are we, a bunch of idiots? Are you kidding me? Tom Brady is not coming to the Indianapolis Colts, nor should he. That's where it begins. That's the middle of it. That's the end of it. It makes no sense whatsoever. All right, speaking of things that make no sense, let's talk about Indiana basketball. Because here's what I'm hearing, and this is not just from alums, but this is from current students at Indiana, that people are starting to become apathetic about Indiana basketball. But you know what? No matter the malaise in which the program has performed, I've never seen that fan base become apathetic. If that happens, that's a nightmare for Indiana. That's the end of days for Indiana basketball. If somehow this fan base decides they don't want to go to Simon Scott Assembly Hall and watch that team play, or that they don't want to watch on TV, I'm still watching every game. I got to tell you the truth. On Saturday, both the Butler-Creighton game and Indiana at Maryland, they were both at noon, all right, on Saturday. I watched the Indiana game, all 40 minutes, every second of that game, and very little of the Butler game. I only turned over a little bit during breaks and came back before the ball was inbounded after the break. I love watching Butler play. You always have five guys on the court who are competing and who are really, really linked together. They play a great brand of tough-minded defense. And then on the offensive end, they don't care who scores. Nobody was pissed off at Kamar because Kamar missed shots the other day. He took 22 shots. He only scored 20 points. He was 7 of 22. He made 1 of 8 threes. That was Kamar Baldwin on Saturday. Nobody pissed off at Kamar Baldwin because that's what Butler needs in order to be competitive more often than not. But they were so good defensively, they didn't need Kamar Baldwin at his best. They won 71-57 regardless of Kamar Baldwin. As long as you've got a guy like Sean McDermott out there who scored 18 points, didn't miss very often. I think he was 7 of 11 scoring the 18 and chipped in 11 rebounds plus a really good defensive basketball player. As long as you've got a guy like that, you can overcome an off day by Kamar Baldwin. Indiana, totally disconnected, right? And offensively, completely inert. And I don't think they're very well coached in a lot of regards. And I'll give you an example. Here was the lineup through part of the second half. Here are the 5 guys. I swear to God, these 5 guys played together. You had Rob Finney, Al Durham, you had Demezy Anderson, you had Deron Davis, and Race Thompson. None of those guys, none of them is an offensive threat. Those 5 guys together, virtually impossible for them to score, and yet they did score a few points while they were all on the floor together. I don't know how they scored, but they did. And then defensively, not very good either. I don't know what the hell was going on in the mind of Archie Miller, but I'm telling you this. I sat and I watched. I did not flip it over to Butler, even though I love the brand of basketball that Butler played. I can't explain it, but that's Indiana basketball to me. And as long as that's Indiana basketball, you know what? You got a chance. But if somehow that becomes something different, I'll tell you what, if you see in the class of 21, guys like Christian Lander, guys like Caleb First decide to go elsewhere, than Indiana, and all of a sudden Indiana is recruiting out in New York and Virginia and Florida and Texas and California. Instead of winning the recruiting battles here in the home state of Indiana, Indiana has a serious problem, because that means that the people who are kind of the seed core, right, those guys you got to be able to go get. You don't win recruiting battles just when guys are 17 and 18. You win them when they're 11 and 12. Who do they want to play for? Who are they watching on TV? And if kids in Indiana aren't watching Indiana first, you got a real problem, because you've got to be able to recruit Indiana to maintain success at Indiana. Here's why, and I get a lot of splashback about that, like Indiana kids are so much better than everybody else. I'll tell you what Indiana kids are. They're smarter about basketball than kids in other places, because they are really, really well coached, and they play basketball first. All right. When my kid was playing youth basketball, he was playing 250 games a year minimum. That's the kind of basketball that's being played here. So guys are getting to 10,000 hours in Indiana, where in other states, they're not. And 10,000 hours, we all know that, right? That's the amount of time you have to invest in an activity to develop not just competence, but mastery over a craft. That happens at Indiana sooner than it happens anywhere else. That's why it's important. It's also important because if you can't successfully recruit Indiana, how the hell are you going to, within the rules, get a kid from Chicago, get a kid from New York, get a kid from Virginia? How the hell are you going to do that when you can't entice kids from Indiana who geographically are predisposed toward being fans of your program? If you can't get those kids in Indiana, how the hell are you going to get these other kids? What kind of kids are you going to get from outside of here, right? You can do that. In fact, you have to do that if you're Butler. You have to recruit outside this geography, because there are 10 Division I programs in the state of Indiana. 4 of them compete at an exceptionally high level. All right, Indiana, Purdue, Butler, and Notre Dame. So you're competing against a lot of schools here. When you do get a kid from Indiana, it's somebody like Kellen Dunham, somebody like Matt Howard, somebody like Zach Hahn, somebody like Sean McDermott, who has been overlooked by those big-time, huge programs locally. And what did Brad do? And what does Lavelle do? And what did Chris do? Those guys would swoop in. They'd say, you know what? They're missing a boat on this kid. I'm going to go get him. And they bring him to Butler. And what happens? They are the number 6 team in the country right now. Their highest ranking ever. And do you know why? Because they play hard and they play connected and they play defense, and they know how to share the ball and work it to get open shots, and they are well coached, as they always are, and they have a culture that extends back 30 years to when Barry Collier took over the program. That's why Indiana has to develop a culture. Talked about it a little bit today, a fictitious conversation between Archie Miller and Bob Knight. I enjoyed writing it. Maybe you'll enjoy reading it. You can catch it at KentSterling.com or on my Twitter feed. It's just that easy. Pacers tonight at Charlotte. You know what? You got to hope that the Pacers have got a road win in them here. I think they've lost 4 in a row on the road. Can't have that. You got to be able to go. And if you got a road trip where you're playing the Hawks and Charlotte, you got to be able to split those at worst. This is our opportunity to do it tonight, 7 o'clock on Fox Sports Indiana. Should be riveting. I love watching the Pacers. They play more like a college team, like a competent college team, a connected college team, and you don't see that in the NBA very often than Indiana does. The Pacers, they do that. I like the way they trust each other offensively. I like the way they're connected defensively. I think Aaron Holiday could not be so in love with shooting the basketball and working for his own shot. I'd like to see him, like the other night, I can't remember who they were playing, but he and Goga Bitadze were on the floor at the same time. They ran some pick and rolls, and Goga open, and Aaron decided to put up a contested shot. I didn't like that so much. He kind of plays from the inside out instead of from the outside in. I'd rather the outside in. You're looking for your other guys. You're one of 5. You understand that you've got to move the ball and you got to share the ball and you've got to be a generous teammate. I like that kind of basketball. With the Pacers, you see it more often than not. T.J. McConnell, boy, oh boy, if he plays, he's got guts. And hopefully that training staff can get his ankle right to play, because if McConnell doesn't play, we know Brogdon's not going to play because Brogdon's got the back. You've got one point guard, and that's Aaron Holiday. We'll see what happens tonight. Can't wait to watch that game. Breakfast with Kent tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock on Facebook Live, and then at about 8:15 on Periscope Live. What the hell do you think we're going to talk about? We talk about sports here. Damn it. We don't off-ramp. We talk about sports because there's a lot to talk about between the Colts, the Hoosiers, the Boilers. Oof, last night, the Boilers. That wasn't fun to watch. That was terrible from the jump right to the buzzer. Awful game to watch if you're a Boilermaker fan. If you're an Illinois fan, you absolutely loved it. Anyway, we talk about the Colts, the Pacers, the Hoosiers, the Boilers, the Bulldogs. We got it all covered. Good win this weekend against Toledo for Ball State. We'll hit that too. Let's go. Pick up Oops. Oops. Just go to Amazon and search Oops and Kent. Up it'll come. Buy the book. Enjoy it. Oops while you poops. Let's go. We'll talk to you tomorrow morning. Join me.